Um, well, either I'm onto something or everyone's this is like the everything's coming together because I've been talking about this in other groups as well. But so DNA for African Americans, we've always wanted to get back to Africa, right? That's been a movement since I had a dashiki when I was like in 1973 or whatever it was, and DNA gets us there. DNA is something I'm finding a lot of African Americans do first, and then they come back to me. I have this DNA results. I want to tie that to my family, right? Like help me find my family. So I think it's a game changer because it helps us kind of understand the slave trade. The way I'm approaching it, this is just my personal approach. Now, as you probably know, just from knowing me, I approach genealogy in a very different way than anyone else does. I use a lot of my information from being a lawyer, from my tech job that I do every day, and just my general experience in business. So to me, DNA is a game changer because it gives them that sense of connection back to Africa. But if we take it another step, DNA can be helpful in understanding the Atlantic slave trade in North America. And here's why. The slave trading companies they went to certain parts of Africa, and then they came to certain ports in America. Less than 500,000 slaves, Africans, came to the U.S. Less than 500,000. Of the 12 million, less than 500,000 made it to North America. So that means that's a small pool of people to work with. If you identify the slave holding or slave trading companies, right, folks that own the ships, all of that, the ports they went into, all of these ships had manifests. Now, maybe some of them didn't have the names on them, obviously, but they had manifests that said where the slaves came from. So if there's a port in Charleston, and in Charleston, they tend to prefer slaves that come from Ghana, slaves that come from Nigeria, then if your ancestors, I'm taking this is a big theory of mine, if your ancestors, if you do your DNA and you have Nigerian or Canadian ancestry and your family's been in South Carolina for a long time, and they've been in a particular location for a long time, then you could possibly at some point tie that back to make that DNA really matter, right? Because you can tie it back and say, well, then maybe my enslaved ancestor that started in South Carolina was from this particular area. So in my mind, and that's just me, in my mind, that's a game changer because right now I feel when we're doing African American genealogy, it is a hit or miss type of thing. You try to find the last owner, you're trying to find the documents related to them, but you don't really have a very logical path to follow, right? You do the same things you do for genealogy research. You take the documents back, trace the person back, but there's multiple people you're researching when you're doing African American genealogy. You have multiple slaves. There's a one-to-many relationship. One slave, many owners. One slave, many families. Both, enslaved families as well as families, that may have different plantations. So I think DNA can help kind of narrow that and structure the research in a more logical way and actually make it easier, right? So all the work that I do is just to make it easier for other people, but then it's fun for me. Just a bonus. Right.